Welcome to another edition of The Baseline. Nick McCarville here. We're crunching the numbers at the Australian Open like never before. Dr. Marco Reed, Venus versus Serena. Let's help viewers out there understand how this match can be won and lost. First, let's talk about clutch.
Clutch represents my performance in the biggest moments of the match. How many big points I win relative to my opponent.
Okay, so when we look at the numbers for Venus and Serena at the 2017 AO, what do they tell us?
Good news for Venus, up 3 percentage points. Not so good for Serena, down 3 percentage points.
All right, but historically, that downward trend for Serena, it actually has sort of a hidden message, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. What we've seen in the Australian Opens where Serena hasn't gone the distance, she's steadily fallen away on her clutch performance from round one through to her exit. Conversely, 2015, she was able to maintain that clutch performance through the entire event. We're seeing a similar trend this year.
Okay, so we've seen Venus be strong on those clutch points, but she's had to put in a lot of work. Let's talk about work as far as the court goes for Venus.
So we know Venus has played 26% more games, 26% more points. She spent 33% more time on court, but she's actually done 58% more work.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot of work, right?
It corresponds to 2.2 more matches for Venus.
Yeah, and almost 2.5 hours more on court for someone like Venus who needs all of that energy. That's bad news coming into a match against Serena, someone who we know she's had a tough time against in the past.
Yeah, look, it means that she's match hardened. That's a positive. Conversely, Serena really fresh.
So when we talk about work, one of the components to that is change of direction. We look at both Venus and Serena, what are they doing and what are they trying to make their opponents do?
Yeah, look, if we look at change of direction over the course of the last few years, what we've seen with Serena, she's standing and delivering. She's wanting to do fewer changes of direction per point than she has done previously.
Right, so basically standing in the middle of the court and directing or driving traffic at her opponent.
Absolutely, so we've seen a steady decline over time. Not so much with Venus. She's pretty consistent in terms of the number of changes of direction she performs in any given point.
Okay, so then what does Venus have to do to sort of inflict some change or some harm into a steadied Serena in the middle of the court?
Again, we've got some good news for Venus because she's targeting the lines more effectively than she's done in the past. She's hitting about 6% closer to the line than Serena on the forehand and 40 centimetres closer to the line than Serena on the backhand. It bodes well if she's going to spread the court, get her sister off balance and create opportunities to make Serena change direction.
Right, so it's going to be a lot about Venus hitting those targets, both sidelines to spread the court, but also baseline to push Serena back.
Absolutely. What we've seen Serena do, on the other hand, is target the centre more than she's done, particularly last year. She's 50% up on the number of times she's directing her forehands and backhands to the middle of the court.
So let's talk about the serve for the Williams sisters. Obviously a very important stroke on the ad court. They're usually both going up the tee, but then what happens? They change tactics.
Yeah, preferred serve for both sisters, up the tee on the ad.
Okay, but then we can see on the next stroke, they're applying a different strategy, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Serena tends to go in behind her opponent really effectively, winning 70% of the time when she does that. Venus, on the other hand, into the open court, allowing her opponent to continue down the path that they were on.
Very good. So now let's take a look at the deuce serves and see what the sisters are doing there differently or the same.
Again, here we have Serena going to the forehand side. The wide serve for Serena, as compared to her sister, to the tee. What's intriguing now, though, is they both direct the next shot to the backhand part of this right-hander's court.
Opening the court up for themselves in different ways there, obviously. Now let's finally take a look at a play that Venus Williams doesn't use very often, which is the wide serve on the deuce court.
Yeah, some of her most winning plays. She doesn't go here that often, that frequently, to the wide part of the deuce court, but when she does, and she follows it up with either an angled ball back in behind the player, or directing the next shot to the deep part on the other side of the court, she's effective 100% of the time.
And this is where we can bring back what we were talking about earlier, change of direction. If Venus goes behind her opponent, behind Serena, or takes her wide in the court, she's making Serena work, and she's changing the direction of the ball, right?
Absolutely. So if she adopts a traditional approach, tee, and then into the open court, allowing Serena to continue down the path that she's on, Serena doesn't change. However, on the deuce court, if she's able to go wide, slide the ball back in behind Serena, force a change of direction, and or go wide, and then hit open, I think it's a good play for Venus.
Well, and it's a play that she's going to have to use more than the 20% of the time she usually uses it against other opponents.
And she's got to take some caution in doing it. She needs to make sure it's of real high quality because we know the power of the Serena Williams forehand.
All right, interesting stuff there. Thank you, Dr. Reed. We're going to see how it shapes up for Venus and Serena Williams. It's an Australian Open title on the line. We'll be watching, and we hope you watch tomorrow right here on The Baseline.